How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Sleepless in Cabarrick, another podcast session. We have Ashlyn Fox on today. Ashlyn, people will know her as AOK Nutrition, and she's a nutritional therapist, as some people might know. So, Ashlyn, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. I love doing podcasts. I was just saying there a few minutes ago, I feel like it's such an amazing platform to reach people. So I'm always honored to be asked. So I'm a nutritional therapist. I'm a naturopath. I have a clinic in Portmarnock, not too far from you guys. And my whole business is kind of just looking at kind of the body from more like a holistic point of view. We always focus on getting to like the root of the issue. In my clinic, I own it alongside my mum. My mum is actually a herbalist. So we have a full herbal medicine clinic as well. And we kind of just look at everything. Yeah, like I said, trying to get through the problem using nutrition, using these supplements and using herbal medicine together. Probably today we'll be talking a good bit about hormones, I think, which is the kind of what I've been branded as over the last couple of years, simply just because it's an area that I'm just so passionate about. Like, I just feel like if I had known, and girls my age now, I'm 30 now, had known these things back in school, it'll just make things a whole lot easier. Like, it's such a basic how your body works, and we're not really, taught these things. So I work a lot with hormonal issues and say women who've had fertility issues, loss of cycles, heavy periods, PMT, stuff that you guys wouldn't know much about, but I'm sure a lot of your followers will be nodding their heads being like, yeah, that is me to a T.
Want to learn today, yeah.
Yes.
The first thing I was going to ask you was what kind of got you into nutrition and why did you choose this career path? But probably has a lot to do with your mum already doing it, does it?
Yeah, definitely. Like, my mum set up her clinic in 1994 in Portmarnock, and so I was kind of brought up with natural medicine. And when I left school, I actually did sports science and health in DCU. And I literally hated every single second of it. Like, I was walking in like my old boots, my jeans, like I'm so not sporty. So here's me thinking that like, oh, I was like a stepping stone. I was like, I'll do sports science and then I'll go on and do nutrition afterwards. And even like being in sports science and seeing like, we're doing whole modules on improving performance by like 1 or 2 seconds, like ridiculous, even less than a second. And for me, because I was brought up in natural medicine and I used to do work experience in my mum's clinic and say like work, the way you would it when you're a teenager, like weekends and stuff like that, I could see how much of an impact nutrition and natural medicine made on people. People were coming back to our clinic 4 weeks after seeing my mum and they were like different people. So I knew the impact before I even started on how much this can help people. I saw firsthand so many times growing up myself that like my mum would give me herbs or supplements and I'd bounce back so quickly. We were never sick when we were growing up. I think I got my first antibiotic when I went to college and I went like a bit rebellious and I, this kind of thing. So kind of fell into it from that aspect that, yeah, definitely like such a huge influence just because I know the impact. And I'm sure you know, like you see it yourself with clients coming in, even a few weeks eating healthy, they feel so good. And I'm like to my clients, like, this is what you're meant to feel like. People don't realize there's levels of wellness, and most people are kind of going around a level 2 the whole time, not realizing that like they have the potential to feel so much better. So that, yeah, basically, long story short, yes, it is because my mum probably is the main influence.
Yeah, we had another kind of nutritionist lad from England on there a couple of weeks ago, and we were just asking him general tips about kind of how people feel and stuff like that. And they're talking about like taking vitamin D, especially in the winter when people are like, kind of low energy, there's no sunlight, you're not really feeling great. He was talking about what did he call it again? Seasonal.
SSAD, isn't it? Seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah. He was saying that like actually supplementing things can totally reverse that. Like, you know what I mean? There's probably people lying in bed all winter after work and all, not in the mood to get up for work and feeling tired all day, that simply learning these things from the likes of yourself can change their life, like bring them onto a new energy level.
Yeah, definitely.
What would be kind of the main things you would kind of look at for people? Like, I know that there's probably a million things to what you do. Like, I know I contacted you before about the allergy thing. If you've got allergies and you're eating certain foods that are reacting bad with you, obviously you're going to feel terrible, alongside just the general things like not getting enough sunlight and needing to supplement vitamin D and stuff like that. Allergies is probably a big thing, is it? Like, what on how people feel like?
Yeah, like food intolerances. So an allergy and food intolerance, 2 different things. Like an allergy would be people who are like celiacs, they have an allergy to gluten, or people with like peanut allergies. And like I kind of say to clients, this is how you're built, it's in your genes. No matter how much gut repair, probiotics, herbs you take, it's just, this is the way you are. Where like a food intolerance can kind of build up over time, and it can just be due to poor gut health. It can be due to overeating certain foods. The kind of most common ones are just your body's reacting well to certain foods. And big word that I use a lot with clients is inflammation. And the best way I'd say is like if there's a fire being lit in your system. And our body is obviously connected. This is a problem I think sometimes in medicine, that like you're only looked at one specific area. So if you have IBS, it's just look at digestion. Whereas we know that like having IBS can affect your mood, it can affect your immune system, it can affect your energy levels, so much other areas they're linked together because your body is linked together as well. So like that's what we would look at things from every single perspective and make sure everything is supported. But yeah, food intolerance is a huge part of what we do. I'm big into looking at bloods as well because I work so much with hormones. Like there's, you know, if I see someone and she's no period, there's 10 different reasons why you've no period. So a blood test will tell us exactly what's going on. And I'm like big into, which is funny now you're saying it now, I'm big into science. Like my head, literally, I need to know how things work. I'm so science-based. In saying that though, I also at the moment am training to be a herbalist. And part of that, we do a huge amount of Chinese medicine. I've done Ayurveda medicine, and it literally just throws science on its head. It's just like, you think of it about the body a completely different way. But I love incorporating these two, like really old, like Chinese medicine's 2,000 years old with like the latest science. And I think that's why our clinic works so well, because we're looking at it from every single angle basically in our practice.
That's interesting, especially that you actually know that the two worlds, like, you know what I mean? Because I always wonder, you know, you see things, Chinese medicines kind of stuff, and you're like, does that actually work? Like, you know what I mean? What's this going to do here? Or are people kind of maybe just using it as a like kind of mentally makes them feel better, but it's not actually doing anything? So I don't understand the science of it either. So it'd be interesting to kind of, from your point of view, to understand exactly what's going on and see the results.
Yeah,
people's blood, see what's actually going on here and how it's working. Like,
it's fascinating. Like at the moment, me studying to be a herbalist, I'm doing the chemistry of the herbs and learning how, like, there's a herb basically called chasteberry, and it's really good for ovulation, to help support ovulation in women. And I always knew it was good for that. I've given that for years. And now me learning literally the science behind how it works in the hypothalamus, like in your brain, that it protects your brain, basically like stealing progesterone, basically. I won't get too technical into it, but to see then how herbs work, I'm like, they're here for us to consume. There's no way these herbs do this amount of, you know, extreme things in the body if we weren't meant to use them. I feel like it's just been lost, especially in Ireland, kind of like Europe. Like we don't really use herbal medicine that much, but in China, it's still one of the main things that they use. Like it's just, we've lost that connection to herbs over the years. But it's fascinating when you actually, me learn the science now. Again, like my science brain is exploding, and I'm also like, oh my God, from a TCM perspective. So it's great. It is amazing. Hopefully I'll be able to bring more knowledge to people in that now next year when I'm qualified as well.
Yeah, that'll be great. That's something that people probably see that as interesting as well, because it seems like something that can react with them straight away. They feel it straight away, you know. Some things can be kind of complicated and take a long time to overcome or to feel different. The likes of those things, adding in different herbs, you probably feel the effects nearly straight away. Like,
straight away. Yeah.
A big thing I've seen on your page, I shared a few of your posts yesterday just to give people a vibe for what you were actually about and what was going on. The big kind of standout thing that you're doing at the moment, or you actually, after talking to one of my clients, you've been doing it for a few years now, is trying to advise people away from taking the pill. What's the kind of, there's obviously a reason for it. I was going to say, what's the reason for it? There's obviously a reason. What would be the kind of big negatives you would see to people taking the pill, and what could change if they weren't to take it?
It's not even advising away from it. Like, I'm always trying to make it really clear that I'm not like anti-birth control. Like, I think it's an amazing thing. If women want to take it, yeah, go ahead and take it. But you're not sat down when you go in and get the pill and explain the side effects from it. And the main thing the pill does, especially with hormonal contraceptives, like the pill, like the mini pill, like the implant, they work by stopping ovulation. So from getting pregnant point of view, if you don't ovulate, you don't get pregnant. That's literally how it works. So that's how it works. The contraceptive sounds great on paper. But the problem with ovulation is how we also make our hormones. And our hormones as women, like, they're split into two different sections. So the first half of your cycle, I would say, is like your get up and go. So you have your estrogen phase. And your estrogen is that real, your energy, your mood, your sex drive. I'm sure you'd even notice with clients, I don't know whether you ask women like where they are in their cycle and things like that, but you're stronger around when you're ovulating. Like, I know, like, I'll get personal best in the gym and I'm like, God, I feel amazing. And then 2 weeks later before you get a period, you can't lift the same weight. So you're even, that in its sense changes. Then you ovulate, and once you ovulate, then you make a hormone called progesterone. And for you, Glenn, in terms of anxiety and this, I think like this is so important for women to know about progesterone, because progesterone is a really calming hormone. So it's almost like a natural anti-anxiety. I always say, like, if you ever bump into someone who's like 9 months pregnant, they're like literally like, yeah, I'm great. Oh yeah, I'm really excited. They're chill. Now they're nervous, but they're always real chill. And that's because their progesterone is through the roof. Progesterone maintains pregnancy. So all of a sudden you go on birth control and those hormones are switched off. You might as well have you actually do have the same level of hormones as someone who's in their 80s, who's finished. Like, you're basically in chemical-induced menopause. I know it sounds so dramatic, but that's actually what it is. So I just feel like it's so important, because I have so many young girls come to me, say in their early 20s, they think they have anxiety, they think they've low sex drive. The sex drive is my favorite one, because I'm like, right, you start having sex, you go to the doctor to get your birth control, and then it switches off your libido. Like, you know what I mean? These are girls in their early 20s, and they just literally switched everything off, and they don't know any different. And then they come off the pill and they're like, oh my God, I'm actually a different person. So it's not that I'm against, it's just that, like, the conversation needs to be had. Like, women need to be aware of the side effects, what might happen afterwards, like how you might feel on it. Like, I'm sure so many women listening, like, maybe there's a shift in their mood, maybe even your digestion changed. Like, you know, it is a steroid drug that you're taking every day, so it can even affect gut health down the line. So there's just a lot of like terms and conditions, I think, that goes along with hormonal contraceptives, basically.
Yeah, they're probably not explained any of this. Like, it's like their main worry is probably like, oh, I've heard these can cause blood clots or something like that. And then once they get all clear on that, it's probably pretty unlikely that you're going to get a blood clot. It's like, okay, I'll just go and take it. But they don't think about their overall, how their body feels or how their mental health is affected.
Yeah. I think as well, like, they're used as a treatment. So like, if I have someone, or say it's not me, if a girl has lost her period and she goes into the doctor, oh, the pill will bring it back. And because women, the way that pill works, you take a break from the pill, you do get a chemically induced bleed. I'm not saying so many girls I see never realize that wasn't actually a real period. The bleed you get on the pill is a side effect of stopping taking the pill. It's just that it's not actually a period. You haven't ovulated. So I see some girls and they were like, you know, say to me, oh, I had irregular periods and then the pill fixed it. And these are people, they could be on the pill 15 years. And I say, no, you had irregular periods and you went on the pill and you haven't ovulated in 15 years. So like, that should be explained, being like, you do realize this is a chemically induced bleed. It's not a real period. You know, it will cause a bleed, which is important for female health. We can't let the uterine build up too much either. So I can understand the doctor's perspective trying to get a bleed in there, but it's not explained that much. Like, women should know this is a short-term thing. I still need to go back then and figure out why my periods were irregular. So it's just the conversation around it, definitely from a medical perspective. Like I said, exactly. They're only worried about blood pressure. That's it. Like, it's just to make sure that's okay. And they're not looking at everything else, basically.
It's amazing the effects that it can have. Like, this is probably a massive part of the female population that will be taking this and not realizing why any of this stuff is happening to them. And they probably think they're insane then, you know, if they're not feeling good all the time and they're getting these kind of small little mental health issues or getting the anxieties and things are pushing on from there, and they think that it's them that's insane, when really switching one thing can kind of change that or make them feel better over time. Like,
biggest thing clients come back to me and say, or even just girls on Instagram, emails, when they come off the pill, they say, I feel like a fog has been lifted. So it's like this foggy, spacey, almost like it's like a hungover feeling, like from a lad perspective, what you can imagine. It's like that just spacey feeling. And some people say, yeah, I just feel like my clarity is better. I can just see better. It's like like I said, you're just flatlined. You've no hormones influencing you. So definitely something people are listening on the pill a long time just to think about, because even your personality, like, you're different. You know, I don't know if you guys have like wives, girlfriends, and you see the shift in them when they're period. Like, you do, even your personality might change a little bit. Like, so for someone who's been on the pill for years and years and years, you've completely flatlined your own personality as well, because you're not having these hormones influence how you're feeling.
It's amazing. I never thought about the effect that it could have like that. It's like when people describe people that are on antidepressants, let's say, their mood, they're totally at one mood level and they don't really know what's going on. Then they become dependent on that and don't really know what life is like without it. And then you hear people that have overcome it. Maybe they've changed something in their life and gone off antidepressants, and they're like, whoa, I didn't understand what I was like there. I was actually maybe like a zombie, some of them say, and my life has totally changed when I've stopped taking it. Yeah,
exactly the same. Yeah, it is a good comparison to it. Without being sounding very dramatic, but like that, you're both flatlined, and hormones are controlled by like a drug. So, you know, definitely can have an impact as like an antidepressant would.
Actually, and if someone is like one of the, say a girl is on it like 20, 15 years or whatever, and she comes off, how quick does that process take to naturally get the hormones back to you know, how they, you know, react naturally? How long does that process take? Does it go straight away, or a couple of days, or?
It completely depends on the person. This is something I get asked all the time as well. Like, the first thing you should look at is, were they putting the pill for irregular periods? And if they were, it could be possible that the root of the problem was never addressed. You know, that was just kind of ignored. I find that if you just went to the pill because like that, your hormones are absolutely fine, no issues with periods, and you just want to get pregnant, those women, their hormones tend to come back quicker. And it could be anything from their ovulation might kick in again after 2 weeks. It could take 6 months. It could take 12 months. It's really different for everyone. This is the problem, that there's no one size fits all. And like, it's a question I always get asked. But it's even your environment. Like, again, I know it sounds so dramatic, but like, the reason you get pregnant, or the reason you ovulate, is to get pregnant, right? That's like the base on your body wants to get pregnant. That's why it's making these hormones. And stress massively impacts ovulations. There could be some women listening and they've lost their period and it's just down to their life being upside down at the moment. That if your body feels like, okay, you can barely look after yourself at the moment, why would I let you get pregnant? That's the way of kind of protecting you. So for some women, they might come off the pill and they never realize that their lifestyle is actually impacting their hormones, because they're getting chemically induced bleed every single month. But they might come off Go Safe, and like we're chatting at the start, like, you know, young girls doing fitness competitions and their weight might be quite low. If they were on the pill, they still getting a bleed, right? They might come off the pill, their diet might be too low, their body might be too low, their stress levels might be up the walls, and they might not have a period. They might not realize that their lifestyle actually wouldn't support a period because they've been masking. Does that make sense? So I know, sorry, I was off on tangents when chatting right like this, but to answer your question, there's no exact timeline. It just depends on the woman and what's going on in her life, and if her hormones are healthy in terms of nutrition and like your bloods and stuff like that. You're not alone, iron and B12, that already impacts it as well. So it's not as easy as just saying that.
Is there any you've experienced that are a really long time? Because let's say, you know, people at our age, we're all heading into our 30s now, or early 30s. If someone has been on it for 10 years since they were, you know, 20, 21, and now at this point they're going, maybe I want to settle down and have kids, and they come off it, and then all of a sudden they can't, or they haven't been able to get it back, and they're not given the right information to get it back and to get back into normal hormones. What's the kind of longest you've experienced? Just give people the heads up, because they might want to start thinking now and go, oh, I need to kind of focus on this now, because it could take 2 years or whatever, you know?
So if you were coming off the pill because you want to get pregnant, I would come off the pill a year before you want to get pregnant, just to give yourself enough time, because you've no idea how it's going to go. If you come off the pill, there's no sign of your period after 6 months, then I go get people go, I send them to go get bloods done. If you go onto my Instagram, you can scroll down and I have a post on the blood testing that I recommend. Because this is the thing, like, some people go into the GP, they get bloods done and they're told, oh no, everything is fine. Everything came back normal. That word normal drives me around the bend. Like, I'm like, these ranges are for sick people. Like, you want to be optimal, you don't want to be normal. And so this thing that if you were told, oh, your bloods look fine, there's nothing wrong, like you just haven't got your period, that isn't accurate. If you have no period, there has to be a reason why. And I would say, like, either the right things wasn't checked, or else your GP is not aware of the optimal ranges for hormones and fertility. So have a look on my Instagram if that's going to help anyone, and screenshot the list of bloods I have there. But yeah, 6 months, definitely, I would say look into it. I've had clients, though, take a year and a half for the period to come back again. So you just have to give yourself that right amount of time. The other most important thing, what a lot of people won't realize, is that the pill depletes important nutrients. Okay? So specifically things like your B vitamins, your zinc, your magnesium. And when we're talking about fertility, I would say it takes 12 months to make a baby, because the 3 months before you get pregnant, your eggs basically take 3 months to fully develop. And for lads, sperm takes 3 months to fully develop. So what you're doing over those 3 months determines how healthy your eggs are going to be. That will determine how healthy your pregnancy is going to be. So if you come off the pill straight away and get pregnant in the first, 3 weeks, you've just been deficient. Your eggs haven't been that healthy because you're lacking in zinc, you're lacking in B vitamins, you're lacking in magnesium from being on the pill. So I think it's important to come off the pill, give your body minimum 3 months, like let those nutrients build back up again so your eggs are really healthy, and then go then and look at trying to get pregnant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's really interesting because people don't ever probably think about this stuff, and it's amazing that doctors who we look up to and go, these are the ones that are going to give us this information, don't actually give us this information. Do you know what I mean? So people could go there and think, oh, I'm all fine, it's all good, and like I can get pregnant now. Once I've stopped taking this, I can get pregnant next month. But they never actually learn about what you've just explained there. So very important for people that maybe are in that position to go and seek help from the likes of yourself, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I think, yeah.
To interject there, funny that you mentioned about the blood tests, how, you know, certain things don't show up. When I was going through all that anxiety disorder, I used to always go to blood tests. I just like, there has to be something wrong here. Like, has to be. There's no way I can have all these panic attacks every day and there's nothing wrong. So I go and everything be okay. It's like, oh, you've low B12 levels or something. But
You had low B12?
yeah, like I had low B12, like this is many years ago when I was like 20. So when I first started the anxiety and panic disorder, but you know, when I was going, like, I wanted to check like what my other vitamins and minerals, my magnesium, my this, my that, and there was never any blood test to, you know, to diagnose
To
it.
check those. Yeah.
Like so.
You
Yeah.
didn't get like there, Ashton, when he said he was low on B12.
Because that's so significant. Like B12 is one, like, keeps me awake at night sometimes thinking about all the people in the world who've been misdiagnosed about B12. The range for B12, let's say it's from 200 to 1200, right? I have clients that B12 is 250 and it's not flagged in a blood test because they're not actually deficient. But if you look at that range, 250 and the upper limit is 1200, like, it's so low. And B12, it's kind of for your nervous system. So it's literally the most important vitamin, I would say, because it helps everything from like things like anxiety. It's so important, energy, stuff then like cognitive, so, or a nervous system. So you might get things weird like pins and needles, heart palpitations, like burning lips, burning tongue. It's a weird one, right? And it makes people feel very anxious. And for hormones and ovulation, it's so important. And it always gets overlooked because the doctors wait for them to go, oh yeah, you're 150, yeah, now you're deficient. But I'm like, if you're 150, you're crawling into the clinic, like, you know, you're absolutely in bits. You want to be up at least around 800. So it's something that I'm actually so passionate about, is the B12, and that's something I'll look at first for any of my clients, make sure that's optimal. So when you said that about like your B12, that was so important even back then for mood and anxiety and just even, yeah, your energy and everything.
The B12 injections and all those, that
Wow, okay, yes, no wonder. Like, obviously that wasn't the main thing, but it would have been significant, definitely.
How would you supplement that? I know people go and get injections off the doctor and stuff like that, but if you're not at that stage, or you just want to generally supplement it, if I don't even know if I'm low right now and I'm thinking I want to just get something, I want to go and ask a doctor for an injection if I don't know how low I am or what's going on, would you advise people to go and get tested, or would you just say, you know what, you can actually take these brand of B12 supplements and they're really good or whatever?
So first of all, if you're thinking you might be low in B12, just Google symptoms of low B12. And if you're nodding your head at most of them, I would go and get a check with the doctor. If it's just, generally, I would be inclined to give a B complex that has B12 in it, that the B vitamins tend to work better when they're all together. But if you're deficient in B12, you need to take a standalone supplement. The one that I have on our online shop, I have a brand called Advanced, and they are brilliant. They're one of the best forms of B12. Sometimes B12 can't be absorbed properly, like you, Glenn, probably back in the day. Like, are you okay now with your B12?
Yeah, totally fine.
Fine now, yeah. Sometimes so sometimes B12 can't be absorbed through food, which means you have to get the injection. And the Advanced brand have basically come out with a supplement that's very like the injection. So I've actually got even the same one I used 3 months ago. I started using last October, which is obviously a year ago. My brain thinking it started 2021. But some of my clients have gotten injections and then they started taking the supplement that I use, the Advanced one, and they haven't needed to get their injections again. It's actually at the level for a lot of the time, which is amazing. I've never seen a B12 supplement like that. So if someone's listening and they're definitely low in B12, take the ones from our online shop on AOK Nutrition. If it's just something like you feel like, oh, maybe I'm a bit anxious, my energy is low, a B complex would be good as well until you get your levels, just to make sure that you're not taking something that you don't need. You know?
It's interesting that people probably don't realize the effect that it can have on them, but for a lad's perspective, I was watching a documentary before about Arsenal, and the players were saying that when Arsene Wenger came in, he obviously came from France and he had a sports science background, brought in sports scientists and stuff. They started to inject them with vitamin B12 through the whole preseason, and the lads were like, we literally felt like superhuman. It was the year before the Invincibles, Glenn, so they went on to win everything, never lost a game that season. And not obviously, there's different things that go on in football, but just the lads said that preseason and that season they felt the best they'd ever felt before, and then other clubs only copped on after that, you know what I mean? But they were the first to do it, and it was a massive difference, he said.
That's so interesting.
I heard about there's a lot of excess alcohol consumption in Ireland, and alcohol can actually deplete your levels of B12. So I think 90% of the population is probably
No.
We brought it on ourselves, basically.
That's true. The alcohol will deplete that. It depletes a lot in the body, but
Yeah, especially your B vitamins. So when I explain to clients B vitamin deficiency, I literally say to them, right, Sunday fear. And they're like, yeah. Like we've all had that Sunday fear. Come here, look your phone, jittery. Like if you're ever trying to drive your car when you're hungover, like, you know, you're so jittery. And that's an extreme case of B vitamin deficiency, because basically B vitamins are water soluble. You can't store them. So it's like as if you have to eat your fruit and veg and your fiber gets in your B vitamins. But alcohol, you know, you break the seal, you pee once and you're peeing for the whole night, and you're actually peeing out all your B vitamins that night. So what happens is then you could come home early, have a good night's sleep, get up the next day, and you're still knackered after drinking, no matter how much sleep you got. And you're still a bit run down. Mouth ulcers are a sign of B vitamin deficiency as well. So yeah, you're on the ball there. But like that Sunday fear people experience, like when I'm hungover, I'll take a B vitamin and magnesium just to keep the jittery, like those shakes, away. But that's B vitamin deficiency just from your poor alcohol or alcohol deplete and everything.
We got sidetracked there a little bit.
Yeah.
What we were talking about was how the pill can affect people and stuff like that. And we've gone through. I don't know. Is there any more points that you'd say that you want to get in there?
They're the main things. Yeah, they are the main things.
I've seen even small things like acne and stuff like that can affect women, kind of, you know, having image issues and not liking how they look and stuff like that. Like so. I've seen posts on your page about that. Like, is that kind of a major effect of the pill as well?
So there's other pills. So it's the mini pill, it's the implant, the Mirena coil, and the depot injection. And they work a little bit different. That you don't get a chemically induced bleed. There's no synthetic estrogen in these. It's just a thing called progesterone. And seems great. You don't get any bleed. Women are happy out. Don't have to worry about it. But the side effect of these sometimes can be that these progesterones, now nothing like our own hormone progesterone. That's the problem. Even GPs sometimes say, oh, you're going on progesterone only contraceptive. It's progesterone. It's very, very different to our beloved progesterone. That's like natural anti-anxiety. These progesterones, they act on like testosterone sometimes in the body. So sometimes I will see with clients, they get things like oilier skin. Their skin is breaking out. Their hair loss. They're getting, it can affect your what's it called with your kidneys on top? My head now. Anyway, it can affect your water balance in your body. So it can cause things like bloating and water retention. So like oily skin, acne, and hair loss are quite common with these progesterone only medications. Again, not told. Like this thing, you should be sat down and be like, right, okay, these can be the potential side effects. You might feel like this. So at least people know this isn't me going crazy. Like this can be a side effect of being on contraceptives. And the problem is people message me all the time saying, oh, I'm on the mini pill. What can I do? My hair is thinning. I'm like, very little. Like, you know, it's like you're swimming against the tide. Like, only, you know, you can take supplements, but it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back every day. You haven't actually addressed the root of the issue. You're just kind of putting, you know what I mean, a plaster on a wound. Like, it's not actually fixing anything, you know? So it's hard when people are on those some people are fine. Some people listen and I have none of these experiences, which is brilliant, but it's just, again, the knowledge of knowing potential side effects.
This is where I wanted to get to. What would be the alternatives? Take it on the man deal.
Yeah. So, oh my God, lads. Yeah, this is the most ridiculous thing. Like, do you know this? Lads be so uncompliant. I would say to clients, like, imagine you told a man, right, take this pill at the same time every day. If you forget we're going to get pregnant, it might cause bloating. You might be really emotional. It's going to switch off your sex drive. It's going to change your gut health. You might have anxiety. You'd be like, all right, do you mess? Like, there is not a hope. And it's mad the way male contraceptives never come in, because they had a pill years ago, and you could take a pill that kills the sperm and doesn't change seminal fluid. So it's like, it literally does nothing. Like, it make no difference to how you have sex, right? But for women to switch off our entire hormones for the whole time, it makes no sense. So anyway, the best of that bunch would be non-hormonal contraceptives. So the copper coil is one. The way the copper coil works, which is mad, it's literally a copper rod that goes into the cervix, and it kills sperm. So like sperm comes in, it can't get very far. It literally like stops it from swimming, which is obviously ideal, but it doesn't stop ovulation. So you still get your period every single month. So it's non-hormonal. Insane though, it has its own side effects. Like sometimes people get quite a lot of bloating on it. It can increase risk of things like thrush and bacterial vaginosis and stuff, because you literally again have a copper rod in your cervix. The big thing around copper as well, copper and zinc compete for absorption in the body. So you can become excess copper in your body. And when you're low in zinc and too much copper, it can cause very heavy, painful periods, which is very common when people are on the copper coil, because no one sat them down saying, if you're in the copper coil, you have to supplement with zinc. to make sure you're keeping those levels balanced. So any of my clients who are on the copper coil, we have them on zinc just to make sure you're keeping everything happy in your body. So the problem then with zinc and iron competes for absorption. So if you have a vegan who's on the copper coil, that is just not going to work. You know what I mean? It's like, so there's so many little loopholes. It's really hard. Like copper coil is not always right for everyone. There's also natural cycles. And natural cycles is a thermometer that you take your body temperature every single day. I think this is probably one of the best ones if you're kind of more like in a relationship, because you can't take it. Doesn't work if you are like hungover or coming in late. So I know, like when I was in college, I was out like 4 nights a week, drinking all the time and stuff like that. So I think when you're younger, I don't know if natural cycles would be the best thing, but I feel like people like our age, late 20s, might do better. So basically the way it works is you take your body temperature every single day, and if you link it with an app, and the app learns your cycle based on your body temperature. Your body temperature goes up after you ovulate. So like this is science-based. I think some women are really nervous about things like this, but most women don't know that you can only get pregnant for 6 days of the entire month. Like 6 days is so little. And this is what I say. I'm like, why was this not drilled into us in school? Like, why are we not told? Like, we're terrified to have sex anytime. So you're like, I could be pregnant. You're due your period in 3 days. It's literally like impossible to get pregnant. And you'd be up the walls. Like, it's just such misinformation. So they say natural cycle works. It's like once you've ovulated, you're fine to have unprotected sex then for the rest of the month, because it's literally, you might have sex at a lamppost. Like, that's how likely you are to get pregnant. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I think a lot of people are finding it hard to trust it because it's just so far into them. They just like, you know, they're something they've never known before, but it's like natural cycles have gone through like FDA, like clinical testing. Like, it's not just like me being like, track your cycle, lads, like, do you know that way?
So that's probably the safest option, isn't it? Take away any hormonal effects that you're going to get from putting anything into your body. This will be just the safest kind of option. Like,
yeah, I think it depends on the person. Like, some people might be disastrous taking their body temperature, but I think it's the most logical, because you're not affecting your cycle. You're still making your hormones, you know, when you're ovulating. Like, it makes you very in tune with your body as well. Like, me saying there's 2 halves of your cycle. Like, I'll have some days and I'm like, oh, I don't feel great today. I'm like, oh, I'm getting a period tomorrow. That's why. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's empowering for when women understand how the cycle works. You can be more aware of how you're feeling and why you're feeling certain ways then as well. I actually have a highlight on my Instagram called Natural Cycles if people want to learn more, and I kind of explain a bit more detail and show you how it works, so you can go on and have a look at it.
Well, if they can remember to take their pill every day, surely they can remember to test their temperature every day.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll take the exact same amount of time.
Yeah.
So those two would be kind of the alternatives that people could go to kind of maybe move away from the pill and the negative side effects that we've learned before.
Yeah, that's the bad bunch.
Right. So then don't know too much about this, and that's probably as much as we can ask. We got enough information there that can people, and we'll just forward them on to you if they have any further questions.
Yes.
Do you want for man flu?
Do you know what it actually is? I find this fascinating. So like, lads have such low pain thresholds, but progesterone, the hormone I was talking about there, is actually a natural anti-painkiller. So I think men actually don't cope well because they've no progesterone there helping them with the pain management. Like, so no is the answer, but at least from a science perspective, it's because you're weaker than we are.
I don't believe that. You've never been kicked in the balls. But then something that kind of is more relatable to just specifically our industry, and you touched on it a little bit through what we were talking about there, is women losing their periods because of their diet and exercise regime. This is like, I can't believe the amount of people that have come to me and been like, I haven't had a period in 6 months. I was working with this coach, and this coach was doing this online program. I was training 7 days a week. I was eating 800 calories. I'm like, well, that's the reason for that. And I can just encourage them to maybe exercise less and try to get more calories in, and we can work through it that way. But you probably have a much better understanding of this. Can you kind of explain to us where that's going and what's leading to that, and what the reasons are behind this?
Yeah, I think some girls, and I see this quite a lot in my clients as well, it seems to be younger girls, maybe late teens or early 20s. And it's like you haven't really realized the importance of ovulation. So ovulation is one of the most basic signs of health. It's your body's way of being like, yeah, I'm happy, everything's great, keep doing what you're doing. Your period, I say, is like your month report card. So like, if you've really painful period that month, there's always a reason why, right? Going back to this for a second, if you've lost your period, your body thinks it can barely look after itself, let alone look after another human. So it's switching off anything unnecessary that doesn't need for survival. So like, it's really, really important to look at. It's called hypothalamic amenorrhea, especially if it's due to what you were saying, like, you know, low body weight, increased exercise, low calories. And your brain has told your ovaries, don't ovulate anymore. You can't cope up here. So if you can't cope up here, you definitely can't cope down there. So it's quite important. And what a lot of young girls don't realize, that this can have a massive impact on your bone health years and years later. So when we ovulate, I mentioned the hormone estrogen. Estrogen helps with calcium absorption. So when you're in your 20s, you look great, you don't care. But I guarantee 50-year-old or 45-year-old Ashton who looks back and you're like, I had no period there for 3 years and now I've osteopenia in my 50s. That's significant. You know the way, and it is so hard like that when you're young, like you don't care, you feel like you're gonna be young forever and that kind of thing, but it will have a knock-on effect later on in life. So it is very, very difficult to treat, because I think you've probably seen it as well, like a lot of disordered eating then is around this. It's like the idea of, well, I only eat clean, like I don't eat takeaways, like, and I work out 7 days a week, I'm not drinking until 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't like, and it's, you know, they think they're doing everything right on paper because their diet is so strict and they're only eating vegetables and protein and stuff like that. But it's gone to the other end of the extreme. That it's like, if you could come back up, pull it back a little bit and you know, keep some of that in to have a healthy lifestyle, but you need to maybe increase your calories and add back in stuff that's good for your soul. Like, you know what I mean? You're taking on Friday night your glass of wine. That's soul food. It's not just calories in versus calories out, you know? So it's really, really important to look at. I work with a lot of clients with hypothalamic amenorrhea. And it's tricky. And some of the girls come to me, I give them all the information. I say, look, this might not be the right time to do this, but at least you understand what you need to do in order to support your hormones and bring it back.
It's become massively popular, and I complain about literally every day, for people to try and drive clients to a really low body fat percentage. Like, so they're aiming to get males probably down near 4 to 6%, and females maybe 12 to kind of 16% body fat. How many people come to you after doing these processes and go, you know what, I was working with this coach, this is what I was trying to do, I was trying to get this 6-pack, I was trying to look like this, and now my period's gone, now, you know, I don't feel great mentally or physically? How many people will come to you with that, and then what will be kind of the processes to getting them back out of that and going, look?
So yeah, I'd say
it's very hard, because even I've actually been working with a girl for a year, and she said to me the other day that she is struggling to eat or get an eating routine because of what she had done last year. So I mean, she's still struggling to get back in her eating patterns. So
a huge part, like I said, there is the disordered eating relationship with food. So like, I'm not qualified as a counselor or like a psychotherapist thing. So like a lot of people, I refer them on to go and talk to someone about their relationship with food side of things. Like sometimes it's a control thing. Sometimes people, you know, they're using this as control, and the masking is, well, I'm doing a photo shoot, like this is why, like it's just another form of an eating disorder. So I feel like a lot of these young girls have to accept that they might need to go to counselling and go talk about it from that perspective, and then we can work at it from like the physiological perspective and hormone support and lots of things. Like a lot of supplements are amazing, herbal medicine is amazing in here as well. But most I'd say like 8 out of 10 people who come to me with hypothalamic amenorrhea, it's probably from photo shoot, from coaching. And then I might get some people who are like recovering from an eating disorder, and it wouldn't be linked with fitness. But yeah, it's just mad. And the biggest thing as well, people don't realize, like carbs are huge. Like, and that's the person who gets caught, is your carbohydrates. I'm like saying to clients, is like your carbohydrates are fuel for ovulation. It's what your eggs need to literally leave the ovary and go on its way. So like these kind of girls are literally on the lower, like they could have eaten 1,500 calories, 2,000 calories a day of protein and vegetables. There's no carbs in their diet. And it's like that in itself lose your period. So education around food is quite important as well, because that's like photo shoot food and actual like health food are very, very different things, you know? So it's like re-educating people on what they should be eating as well.
I've been saying this for a long time, that people have taken the health out of health and fitness. It's just, we need to look this way. And it's, where does it reach a point where I'm a health and fitness professional who is trying to help people to feel better, but it's like maybe what we were talking about before, when doctors are giving people the pill but not explaining the negative side effects. There's no actual reason for you to be below that level of body fat. There's no positives. The only single positive you're going to get is a little ego boost when you put a post up on Instagram. the negatives are fucking loads. There's millions of negatives that are coming with it. You understand from the physical standpoint, the hormonal aspect, but then there's also the mental side too. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think people are probably sick of listening to me harp on about the mental side effects and what it can do to you. But it'd be interesting just to have your insight to go what the actual physical things are here. Like, you know what I mean? If you're not taking in carbs, you're not going to be able to ovulate.
Oh, and even in itself, like, so I always laugh, like, most of my clients got in touch with me post-COVID, post-lockdown, so like, I'm after putting on weight, blah, blah, and I'm like, so did the whole world. I'm like, all we had in lockdown was carbs and sex to release dopamine, to release those happy hormones. And everyone is so bored, probably no one was having sex anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, I feel like sex needs some, you know, excitement, and like, you're just at home together all day in your pajamas, like, it's not exactly that, you know, exciting. So I was like, all we had was carbs, and carbs release this dopamine hit. Like, they make you feel good. Like, if you're sitting around and you see your pizza coming, you're like, oh yeah, here we go. So it's enjoyment. And in terms of relaxation as well, carbs also help to make your sleep hormones. So like, if you've ever had a bowl of oats going to bed, oh my God, you literally can't get to the world. Or even like, I give some clients like that cereal or toast or something like that in the evenings if they come to me with insomnia. So it relaxes your nervous system. And there's a big difference between carbs that are coming from a bowl of Cocoa Pops and carbs that are coming from brown rice and oats and brown bread. And like, they're very, very different type of carbs we're talking about here. Now, all carbs are still carbs. Like, they still will give your body some energy, but it is like getting the good carbs in as well to help with your mood and with things like that. But yeah, like, people as well, like, I'm sure if you talk to anyone who actually got to that low body weight, they're miserable. Like, it's going against everything that your body wants to do. They're cold, they have no libido whatsoever, their digestion's probably really sluggish, their sleep probably isn't great because their body is running on fumes. Like, I'm sure their cortisol, which is your stress hormones, is probably through the roof as well, because your body is being like, what are you doing? Trying to get your attention. Like, you're being hangry all the time. Hangry is a sign that blood sugars have dropped and your body's in panic mode. It's like, are you being chased by a bear, or are we just hungry? Like, it's the same stress response that kicks in. So, you know what I mean? That's when people listen to this, it's a lot more, you have to think about side effects than just the photo shoot at the end and the pictures. And then the rebound is very difficult. Some clients come to me and they find it really hard putting back on the weight, even though their weight, they're probably still smaller and leaner than anyone else would be, but it's just, they feel huge compared to the 17%, like, even lower ashing, you know, that way, that it's like you were saying, the whole mental side of the thing.
How you are obviously working with a high percentage. You said there that nearly 80% of people that come to you with this kind of thing comes from that background. How difficult is it to get from there back to normality? Like, how hard is that? Just so people can understand, I'm going to go and do this, I'm going to work with this coach, I'm going to get this fucking photo shoot to impress some people that don't really care about me. How difficult is it for me now to get back to where I want to be able to feel good again, to be able to lift the weights that I used to lift, to be able to fucking function normally? How difficult is it to get there? Like, how long would it take? How long are you working with people?
Yeah, it varies. Like, I was working with some girl for 12 months and took her 12 months to get her period back. Another girl was working for only 6 weeks and she got hers back. It depends on the dedication. Like, some girls come to me and they're like, I'm tired of feeling like this, I'm over it, I'm not with my coach anymore, tell me exactly what I have to do and I'll do it. And I check in with them months later, like, I've put on a stone, I'm eating 3,000 calories a day, I'm not doing any exercise, I'm only going for walks. And these are like, and they're the girls that will get it back straight away. It's actually a really good book. It's called No Period Now What? And it's a book on hypothalamic amenorrhea. And I feel like if anyone is resonating with this, it's something to read to kind of understand the mental side of things. And there's a lot of good tips, helpful tips, and to help you kind of get your, you know, form new habits basically then as well. But it completely depends on the person. It's so hard. Like, you asked me earlier about when you're going to get your period back. It's your lifestyle. It's how dedicated you are to do something. The minimum calories you can be on is 2,000 calories minimum.
You know,
so
it's probably very hard when you've been told by a coach every single day for fucking 6 months, a year, 2 years, we need to eat 800 to 1,200. Don't eat any more than that. Now they come to you and you go, you need to eat
1,000 calories.
They always do this to me. They're like, oh, I'm going to get fat. Or 2 weeks later, they come in, they're like, oh, I feel like I'm putting on weight. But it's important to understand that there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's normal. We're supposed to put on. You're in a position.
So for these,
you need to look like this when you don't need to look like that. It's not healthy to look like that. So you need to make yourself, you know, feel comfortable with putting on a bit of weight again and feel comfortable eating that level of calories.
Yeah, no, definitely. And sometimes that's why sometimes it takes so long, because I mean, I don't expect seeing a girl the first time and her increasing 1,000 calories straight away. So sometimes it's baby steps, and we'll check in and we'll, you know, build it up over time. But it's just education. Like, I feel like even, you know, the 20-year-old listening, I probably would listen to myself or listen to me when I was 20. Do you get me? It's like, and especially you, like in your third, like your 30s, well, aren't you? Like around that, like the same thing, listen to a coach preach and be like, this isn't good for you. Like, it's so, like, younger people in their 20s just kind of ignore that. So all we can do is try and just give them the information, and hopefully someone will take something from it and go, right, actually, that actually sounds like me. And you know what I mean? But all we can do is just keep trying, because I feel like it's just the way some people are.
Oh yeah, what I seen when this trend first kicked off was that coaches felt like they had to do it to fit in or to get clients, because these couple of coaches that started it got other younger coaches in, and they kind of used them to promote. So they probably had, like, you know, a coach with 35,000 followers, and they look like they're doing great business, and they done this photo shoot, and everybody was writing on it, and they were getting more and more clients. So if I'm a young coach coming fresh out the gate now, what do I have to do to fit in or get clients? I need to look like that. So have you experienced any of that? Coaches come to you where they're like, you know, I did this and maybe I'm a little bit messed up from it, or a coach is probably still in the mindset of they're still in that, I still need to be there because the trend hasn't gone away yet?
I have 2 coaches who come to me, but they're actually older, like they're in their late 30s.
Yeah.
I'll have another girl comes to me, and it's kind of like her, I think she was ballerina. And again, it was the industry, like, but they, again, they're in their 30s now. And I think like a lot of wisdom comes from the older as well. So not so much younger people now, not coaches. Maybe 1 or 2 actually might have come to me. But it's kind of more the people with really extreme cases, a little bit older. It's like they've done the years and being like, okay, actually this. And it's only something like I didn't know anything like this when I was in my 20s. Like, I've never heard of hypothalamic amenorrhea, or when I studied sports science, they call it female triad. Is that what it's called? Have you ever heard this female athlete triad, where it's like you have to reduce your body weight for performance, the cycle is gone, then you increase your calories, then you have to reduce your weight for performance. It's kind of like this cycle. And I only learned about that in sports science as like a little snippet, never really thinking that actually was just in the gym every single day, you know, that it's like, it wasn't as trendy to be as lean when we were in our 20s, you know.
It's interesting. This is why we do this, because we didn't have the access to this information. So this is why we come and talk to you and ask you the questions, and we can put it out there so people now that are caught up in this trend. I know it's still popular now, and it's going to be popular probably for a year or 2. So that you're not going to hit everybody, but there's probably someone that's going to watch this and go, oh shit, I actually was slipping into that, and it was affecting me this way. And maybe they'll go to the likes of yourself and seek help and be able to improve their life and feel better.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Trying to think what was the next most important thing we wanted to hit with you. I had very specific questions that I wanted to clear, so I want to make sure we touch on them. The disordered eating thing, actually, a lot of people probably don't even understand what that is. They see eating disorders and they think I'm not anorexic or I don't have bulimia, and they never actually think about disordered eating. It's something that I've only really clued into probably in the last year or 2. So I'm pretty sure that the average person probably hasn't clued into it at all. Can you kind of explain to us what disordered eating is, and maybe how common it is to kind of see people with that and help people, how often you help people through disordered eating?
Yeah, it depends on the person. Like, again, I said, I feel like a lot of this is the mental side of things, which I refer people on. That's not my area of expertise, and I'll put my hand on my heart and say I can't help this person. So I can definitely work with nutrition, with the supplements, with the hormone support, with the, you know, body support. But an eating disorder isn't just like that. Again, anorexia, bulimia, they're the ones most people know. EDNOS was a big one. I don't know if that's still a phrase now, but eating disorder not other specified. And that can be anything from clean eating is used. Like, people who are like, oh no, I can't eat that. Like, I have some clients, they won't eat white potato, they'll only eat sweet potato. Because white potato is not clean. Like, or have calories. Yeah, do you know what I mean? The exact same calories. And it's like this, it's like rules around food and cheat meals that, like, we can only have that on a Friday. Or let's say they tend to overeat, and then it's punishment the next day, or have to do extra cardio now to burn off those calories. So if you're finding yourself in those trends, that is disordered eating, or saying, no, I can't eat. My fitness pal, actually, a few years ago, I thought was detrimental. I don't use that with clients. I never really did tracking calories with clients, because my clients come into me and they wouldn't eat an apple at the end of the day because they know calories left. Because, like, you know what I mean? Or terrified of fats is a huge one. Like, Slimming World has probably created so many women just so afraid to eat fat. Avocados are sin, I don't know, 50 sins. There's something ridiculous. Like, you know, fats make you fat. Fats don't make you fat. Like overeating calories, but fats are so important for hormones. So it's like, what I would say disordered eating can be is rules around food. And I think a lot of people probably have these rules around food. And just because they tend to eat clean and put inverted commas, it doesn't mean their diet is good either. You know, they might be missing other nutrients then.
It's probably where, like, I think what I wanted to get to was making people aware to a point where it affects your life. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I feel 100% comfortable in my own skin, I go, right, maybe I won't have a pizza until the weekend or whatever, that can be fine. But if you're going, I can't, and never doing it, and then when you do eat the pizza, you have to get up early on a Sunday morning, do a 2-hour cardio session and all this sort of stuff, where that can slip very kind of quickly. You know, you don't really see it coming until all of a sudden you're like, oh, now it's a real problem. I'm really stressed or anxious about this. I'm stressed and anxious around certain foods and certain lifestyle and do things. Like, it's starting to affect your life. That's where you really need to kind of clue into it. Like,
yeah, like some people, you know, skipping meals with their friends and they're eating at a Tupperware coming afterwards and missing lights out, and like, it's different if that's your goal and this is what you want to do, and you're, you know, but it's like, if it's something that is affecting your mood and you're feeling lonely and you have to look at it from perspective. I always say to clients, like I said to you at the start, like, food is good for your soul. Like, there's nothing like finish work on a Friday, coming home, rain outside, take away the way, open bottle of wine. Like, that is, it's enjoyment, or having a meal with someone, or like the first bit of coffee in the morning and a bit of chocolate or your cup of tea after dinner. Like, these things keep you happy. Like, you know what I mean? Food isn't just calories in versus calories out. It's there for enjoyment. It's there for pleasure as well. I think that's a lot of people miss then when they're kind of really, really strict with their diet, is they're missing the pleasure from food, and that can obviously going to have a knock-on effect for your mood then as well.
You know, what's one that really bugs me that can lead to these kind of things? There's coaches out there that, like, if I'm your coach right now and you put up on your story that you're out having a pizza and a few drinks, the coach is texting them saying, what are you doing out having pizza and drinks? We've got a photo shoot coming up in 3 months or fucking 2 months or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And they're literally just encouraging the negative kind of relationship with food. And then it's hilarious because these same coaches are the ones that harp on about relationship with food, and we can help you with this and help you with that. And we're sitting here talking to you, who is a qualified nutritionist and is working in this field, and anything related to the mental issues with food, you're saying I refer them on. It's exactly what I do. Someone actually wrote my post one day and said, stop being a therapist, when I said I'm advising people to, if you feel like you need to be at 12% body fat to live or to fit in, maybe you need to speak to someone. And someone said to me, you're not a therapist, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I'm advising them to speak to a therapist. That's exactly what I'm doing here, and that's exactly what you do. But coaches will go on and go, oh, what are you fucking eating that for? What are you doing this for? What are you doing that for? And then harp on about relationship with food. It's like, you're the ones that's messing up their relationship with food.
I know, it's ironic, isn't it? Definitely. Yeah.
The fucking, I don't know. I don't get it sometimes. What was it? Oh yeah. We discussed this with the last guy. We were kind of just asking, like, me and Glenn obviously have big interest in mental health, and that's something that we try to help people with a lot. You probably touched on it with different things throughout this, but is there anything that you kind of notice in people's diets that make them feel low, or that they could change to make them feel better? Like you were saying with Glenn, with the anxiety thing, that the B12 could probably help him, or when he was low on that's probably having a big effect. What would be kind of the most common things you'd see that would make people feel anxious or depressed or stressed, and maybe things that can help them, or nutrients they can take to help them feel a little bit better?
First of all, everyone needs to be on vitamin D from now until March, like non-negotiable. Everyone should listen to this, go and get your vitamin D straight away. Ideally a spray or a liquid, just gets better absorbed. Vitamin D is so important for your mood. Like, it literally helps make your happy hormones. That's why so many people don't want to get out of bed in winter. It's so grim and so dark. I would see a lot of clients with anxiety, and again, the mental side of things, like what you do to help with your just cope with it, is so important. And we work on the physiological aspect. Let's stop triggering unnecessary stress hormones. Because if your anxiety is here just because it is, and you're letting things add fuel to the fire all day, of course.
I've done this for years. My big thing is kind of health-related anxiety. That's what I always suffered with. So, like, I would do stupid things with my diet. I'd see, you know, maybe coaches do years ago, poor information and things that would affect my gut health. And I used to get like really bad acid reflux and high acid levels. And when it shoots up your chest, you feel like you're fucking having a heart attack. What's that going to do? It's going to increase the health-related anxieties, and then I'm going to be panicking. So
it's just cycle.
These are simple things that if people learned about and learned that what's going on here, they could probably be, relieve themselves of some of that worry.
Yeah. Right, let's keep this super simple. So actually give some people good advice. Right, supplement wise, vitamin D, B vitamins, like you mentioned, B complex, and magnesium is brilliant for stress. So magnesium just helps relax everything. Okay. From a herbal perspective, I always get chamomile tea. Chamomile tea is very, very good for relaxing the nervous system as well. You can even have chamomile tea at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If you're going into a meeting and your heart is racing, you're feeling, there you go, literally Glenn has chamomile tea sitting in front of him. So Glenn knows all about it. It's, again, me learning from a herbal medicine perspective. I'm like, this is fascinating how these things work. So those 3 things are my go-to. I use a lot of other herbs as well, but just for people walking into a shop and getting it. Vitamin D, B vitamins, magnesium going to bed, and B vitamins in the morning, and your chamomile tea. Gut health is the next thing. Most of our happy hormones are made in the gut. That's what people don't realize. So if you are someone who's had loads of antibiotics, if you're on the contraceptive pill, if you love drinking a couple of nights per week, if you have, a tendency to get a few painkillers every now and then, or on your acid reflux, if you tend to use a lot of like medications, these things all deplete gut health, right? And you might not be experiencing bloating. You might be experiencing constipation. So you feel like your digestion is fine. That's only one part of gut health. But your mood might be really low. You might be really anxious. You might be feeling depressed. And that is also gut health. And there's something, again, it's not, we're not educated about this, that it's not just digestion, it's also your mood. So getting on a probiotic is probably the easiest way to do it. So taking a probiotic for even a month course and see if your mood improves. Alpha-Rex, I know Zenflor is actually one that's meant to be very good for anxiety. I have one in my shop called Murlac. I find it brilliant as well. Okay. That's the next thing. So you have your supplements, you have your gut health.
Just let me ask you one thing there. I used to take something, I think is it L-glutamine or something that's supposed to be good for rebuilding the gut?
Yeah, L-glutamine is, I actually something like, imagine you like a bucket of glue in your gut, fixing all the damage that's been done. So, I mean, we could do a podcast on gut health and nothing else. Like, your gut is complex. So if you're struggling with IBS and digestive issues, right, everyone I see, anyone comes into me with digestive issues, they'll always take anxiety or depression on my consultation. And they don't realize it's linked. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And like anxiety is a symptom of IBS. And they're like, I didn't realize that before. I'm like, well, your bad days, I'm sure your mood is affected. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, like I never thought about that. So, we talked about food intolerance at the start, that like, if you feel like your digestion is a huge part, you have to address that if you want your mood to be good. Like the two things go hand in hand together,
So glutamine be a good thing to add in, like with that. I normally took that when I had kind of stomach issues. Glutamine was one of the things that I went to. Would that be beneficial for people to take, or how does it?
Possibly, like you always say, like I'm like, what's lighting the fire? So L-glutamine puts out the fire, but are you relighting it again with the next meal that you have?
Yeah.
That means you have to look at what you're eating. You have to look at alcohol. You have to look at stress. You have to look at a lot of other factors that I rarely like. And I don't really, on my Instagram, I don't really recommend specific supplements to people, like, or I kind of real generalize, because everyone is so different. Like I don't give all my clients glutamine. I do sometimes, but like it wouldn't be my go-to first off with my clients. You get me? So it's kind of different for everyone.
Probiotic will be your go-to first.
Probiotic will make my go-to. Yeah, without probiotic, definitely. Yeah, I think that is important.
When people hear this, they'll probably go to shop and get a fucking Yakult or something.
Oh my God, yeah. Disaster.
So you
go into a health shop.
You go and get a proper probiotic.
Yeah, the ones I love, Zenflor is good, BioCult is good, and the one in my online shop is Murlac, which I love that one. It's using it as a liquid, it's very strong. Sorry?
You have an online shop?
We have an online shop, yeah, and AOK Nutrition, yeah.
B12 and stuff like that?
B12 is on that as well, and the B complex. Any supplements like vitamin D, we've really good liquid vitamin D, and it's like 11 or 12 euros. It's really good. I literally put it on the back of my hand and take it off every day, so it's really easy to take.
We're about to go to something after gut health there, and I distracted you. What was next?
The next thing, talk about anxiety, your diet, right? First thing you can do is blood sugar balancing. What I mean by this is stop yourself from being hangry. We've all been there, hangry monster, coming into the kitchen, hands are shaking, irritable, don't talk to me, eating a biscuit while you're making lunch, you're just in panic mode. Your body has released stress to get your attention. Being like, can you please go eat something? I'm fucking starving, right? So the problem with this is, if again, your anxiety is level 9 just because it is, and you let blood sugars drop, you're triggering unnecessary stress. That didn't need to happen. So trying to eat little and often throughout the day, or if it suits you better, like 3 main meals a day, but actually eat before you're starving. You know what I mean? If you're ravenous by 1, start having lunch now at 12:30. So that's quite important. And even more importantly, so eat little and often. The next thing to kind of help blood sugars is make sure you're eating your protein with your meals. Best analogy, I'm sure everyone listening is going to get this, is Irish mammy dinners, right? Yeah. When your mom is making dinner, the protein source is always the center of the meal. She'd be saying, I have steak, I'm doing bolognese, I'm doing pork chops. She'd never give you a bowl of potatoes for dinner, right? That's not a proper dinner. You'd be like, Mom, where's my meat? Like, go mad, right? But people have cereal for breakfast. People have toast for breakfast. The big one I get is trying to be good, which I absolutely hate that phrase, trying to be good, inverted commas. And my clients will have porridge and fruit for breakfast. Porridge and fruit is like having broccoli and potatoes for nothing else. You know, it's not a proper meal. So getting your protein is plan your meals by Irish families plan dinners. Look at the protein source and plan everything else around that. So protein, obviously, for people around where it's like obviously your animal protein, your meat, your fish, your eggs, that kind of stuff. But with plant-based proteins like nuts and seeds, which are a little bit easier sometimes. So you could put like dollop of nut butter in with your porridge, or some flax seeds, chia seeds, and peanut butter on toast if you're just having toast on its own. It doesn't have to be like meat 3 times a day either. There's other ways to get it in. So that's super important from a hangry perspective. And then our caffeine, like lads, people are caffeine addicted at the moment, and they don't realize the way caffeine works is by triggering stress hormones. So if someone is anxious, again, you're having 3 coffees a day, all you're doing is asking your body, more stress hormones, please, more stress hormones, please. And what can happen is then it will affect your sleep. Caffeine stays in your system for about 12 hours. So if you've had a day being anxious all day, your anxiety is through the roof, you're drinking loads of caffeine, you have a crap night's sleep, you get up the next day, you're wrecked, and your ability to cope isn't as good when you're tired. Do you find that, Glenn? Like if you have bad night's sleep, you're a bit more...
Yeah, I gave up caffeine, I think around 7 years ago. I still haven't had a coffee since then.
Yeah. So it's, quite important. What I say, I mentioned so many times, things are good for your cell. Like my morning cup of coffee when I'm looking at my day, getting everything organized, I have decaf now. So I'm still having my ritual. It's still, I go, when I meet the girls for a walk, we get coffees, I just get decaf. So it's like some people just love the coffee. They don't actually need the caffeine. The caffeine's just unnecessary.
I've had decaf for like 10 years too. And people always say, you know, you go with your mates and they're like, what are you getting that for? There's no point in even getting it, or it tastes like shit. It's not the same. And I'm like, you're not a coffee expert. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, just drink it. You drink it for a month, you won't notice the difference. Like,
decaf. We've got to do decaf.
That's even tea. Like, I have decaf tea bags, decaf coffee. I literally haven't taken any caffeine in years. Like,
yeah. I've, especially in the evening, someone struggles with sleep. I always have decaf tea past say like 5 o'clock in the evening. So then it makes such a big difference, even though it's such a small amount of caffeine. And then even things like your Diet Coke, like your Coke Zero, some people have caffeine in it as well. Some people have Diet Coke with their dinner in the evenings and they don't realize that's going to affect their sleep. So
Monsters and stuff like that, Monster and all.
Oh, that's a whole other ball game. Yeah, the energy drinks.
I have 3 a day with coffees too. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just
no wonder they're anxious. Yeah. So like they're real practical tips. Look at it from supplement point of view. Look at it from gut health. Look at it from diet. And the other thing then as well, if someone's really struggling, like I said to Glenn earlier, is getting bloods done. Like low iron, low B12, even thyroid can affect your mood as well. So just making sure everything's optimal. And to make it clear as well, like you're able to get a copy of your blood. Now, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor, but you look at the ranges on a blood test and you can see what you are and what the range is. And you can work out where the middle of the range is. Do you know what I mean? Like most of the time. So you can just double check and make sure that your levels are kind of where they should be. And if you're not happy, just flag it again with your GP.
What ranges are you given there though? When they give the range and they're like, are they giving you the range of where you're depleted and where you slightly have enough? Or are they giving you the ranges like you were talking earlier from 2 to 1200 or whatever the case may be? Like
they'll give you what you are and they'll give you what the range will be. So like
they give you the optimum.
They won't give you the optimum. No, they won't give you the optimum. They'll just say where you are. Yeah. So
they still need to go to speak to you.
Kind of, but sometimes you can there's only a few bloods that the optimum wouldn't be. Like ferritin, the range I think is something from like 5 to 200. If someone's ferritin was 200, like that's ridiculously high. Like you wouldn't expect it to be that high. But most of them though, you can kind of gauge by just looking at it, being like, okay, well, my iron is between 5 and 30 and I'm 8. That's low. Do you get me? It's like you don't have to be knowing how to read blood. It's just, you can question with your own GP and ask them what they think with it,
It's amazing because people don't really think about what's going into their diet. A lot of times, even the fitness professionals and the people that are looking after the health and the people that are going to the gym and trying to get in shape, all they're thinking about is the physique end. They're not really thinking about how your body actually is reacting, how your body's feeling, how you're feeling mentally and physically.
Yeah, like the fitness, diet and health, hormone support is very different. Like I've got clients with polycystic ovaries and the worst thing they can be on sometimes is cow's milk. So like they come into me and the PT is giving them, they can't lose weight and they're on 3 protein shakes a day and Greek yogurt and Do you get me? Like that kind of stuff. And nothing bad with PTs, but also PTs shouldn't be giving people PCOS nutrition advice.
Yeah,
that's a whole other ball game. Like, you know,
like, and I know, like, I done the sports science thing like yourself, and we probably done 3, 4, 5 hours of nutrition every week for a year. Whereas some people in a PT course, it's only 4 weeks, and they probably cover 2 hours of nutrition in the 4 weeks, and then see you later. And now they're out there advising people what to do. Like,
and they're giving everyone the same things.
Like, I'm in this 10 years, and I'm still here asking you for advice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who you are and what you know, and a lot of the time we don't know what coaches pretend to know. You know.
No, definitely, yeah.
I think we covered all our main things there, Glenn. So
we're all educated on the basics, but getting into it with yourself, Ashton, it's a whole different ballgame. What you've just mentioned, like the education that you have, is just, it's incredible. Like, and you know, I don't know how many years you've been studying, but like even going into the and stuff like that, it opened up a whole new ballgame for people, and I think it's fantastic. You know. I'm said before this. That's why many years ago, when I was struggling with anxiety, I was gonna come to you. Like, I heard such great reviews about you and stuff like that, and then of course didn't follow through with it myself. But yeah,
maybe you will now.
You know? Well,
yeah, but he's good now. No, it is amazing. Like, I've practiced 7 years, and I know it's a cliche, but I feel like I'm so where I'm meant to be. Like, I love educating people. I love helping people. I think people are more open to me talking about things because I'm just normal. Like, I'm herbal medicine. You think of some mad hippie woman living in the hills, like in mushrooms, but I'm a herbalist. Well, I will be herbalist, and fingers crossed, in 8 months. And I'm like a normal girl you'd see walking around Dublin, like, you know, the way that I'm like. So I think that's why people relate to me so much, and why people listen to me, because I'm not just like some, you know what I mean by that. Yes.
Actually, one last thing I want to ask you, Glenn.
Really, that was a great platform to have. Like,
broke up a second, so I was about to say something. I didn't realize I was talking over you. I thought you stopped. It froze.
Yeah.
It froze or something there. Glenn just reminded me there that I actually wanted to come to you before for allergy testing, and I think I still need to do this at some point. Can you just give us a kind of a quick view on what you actually do with the allergy testing? So if I think that I'm reacting to certain foods or whatever, what would be if I want to come to you, what's the process like?
We do finger prick blood tests, and we analyze like 60 different foods. So I don't think you need to do more than that. My 7 years in practice anyway, that it tends to be these bigger foods that cause problems for people, figure out what's causing the problem, and then we focus massively on gut health or gut healing. Sorry, that's a bigger thing. Like, a lot of time, because I've been practiced so long, I can generally look at a lot of people's diets and take things out before I do the food intolerance test. So you could probably do that first if you want to, like, probably know by looking at it. And then we can do, a lot of people I'll do the intolerance test and follow up if we need to. But basically, step 1, finger prick blood test, and then we do a personalized gut healing. And that will consist of looking at diet, maybe some supplements, herbal medicine, depending on how bad people are. Like, we have 300 herbs in our clinic, and they're all for different things. So we make up personalized tinctures. Like I was saying earlier on with IBS, if you come in and you're suffering with constipation and bloating and reflux and have really bad anxiety, no energy, we give you a tonic for everything in that. Like, it's, you know what I mean? You have something for mood, for energy, all in one. So I find the herbs brilliant. So that's basically how it works. And I might do a plan with them from 3 weeks to 12, depending on how bad they are, basically.
So
that's it in a nutshell.
I asked my doctor when I was going through all this 10, 12 years ago, and they were like, there's some private clinic over in Blackrock. It's the only place you can go. I can try and get you an appointment for it. So that's what put me off going. I was like, oh, fuck, I waited probably 6 months to wait for this thing, and it's over in Blackrock. I don't know where it is. The doctor doesn't really even seem to know where it is. I'm not getting help here. So it's interesting for people to know that they can get in contact with you. It's only around the corner where we are.
Yeah. And actually, my plan for it, I'm actually going to open a gut health section of AOK Nutrition. I'm hiring new nutritionists that will just be focused on gut health alone, because I have nowhere to see people. Like, I have no appointments until February at the moment for anyone listening. So if you want to book in, hop on straight away in bookings. It is a good bit of a wait at the minute. But I'm going to have gut health, my first little extension of AOK Nutrition, gut health AOK Nutrition. So yeah, anyone listening, definitely be in the right place. But definitely be able to see you.
That'd be great.
I'm so interested in that. Like, I actually, when I was going through my anxiety disorders, that I searched it high and low for you know, a cure, and I was looking into Ayurvedic medicine, and I was looking into everything, and
it's fascinating. That is a whole other, like, it's, every single person I see, I take into consideration Ayurveda medicine and TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. I don't tell them, like, I don't like some people I would explain to, like, Glenn, if I saw you, I probably would explain it because you'd be like, oh, I've actually heard about this. Other people think I'm absolutely mad. Like, but it is, I do believe we're so good at what we do because we're looking at, like, we're taking every single part of medicine and we're putting all into one. Like, my mum is also a nurse before she changed careers. So, like, the medical side of things, I'm not against medicine. Like, I think doctors are amazing as well. Like, I'll happily tell someone to go get an antibiotic. So it's a huge, you're looking at it from every single perspective. So needed in the moment for people.
Brilliant.
I think we've covered every main question that we had for today, but I also think there's probably a million other questions. So maybe someday we'll have to get you back on again.
Yeah. Season 2, we'll do a follow-up.
Follow up on what help and stuff like that and see how the business is going and that sort of on your
end.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there for today and let you get about your day's work. So thanks a million for coming on. I'm sure this is going to help so many people. Most of my following and clients are actually females, so they're going to get a lot of useful information here. And
Brilliant.
Then know where they can go to seek help. And anyway.
Yeah, so my Instagram's AOK Nutrition or my website's AOK Nutrition. You can find me over there. Thank you so much, guys, for having me on. It's a great chat.
Great, actually. Pleasure to have you on.
For coming on. I'm going to end this